All right, it's time for Super Centex After Dark as we approach the midnight hour, the witching hour here in Central Texas, with some good high school football games tonight, some blowouts, and DJ, who has just arrived just arrived at her home. We'll start with DJ since she did see a pretty good game. You were just telling us Marlin's for real.
Yeah, I mean, and I felt like I was watching a fever dream because it was just insane. I think this is the best game I've covered all season.
Mm.
Like, I really feel like that. They, were really solid offensively, bar a few drop passes here or there, which is they've been trying to really balance the run game with their passing game. And Roderick Suters is just a really interesting guy at quarterback. Like I don't remember. I don't think he played for them at that position last year. Yeah, but it was just really something. They get the punt to start the game because Crawford received. And then they go and they pick up first down after first down. And Mario Hopwood, Super Mario, as they call him over there in Marlin, he
Which,
scored.
by the way, let me stop you there. The Marlin radio broadcaster you mentioned before we came on, you were sitting by him or you were near him in the press box.
That had to
what
be
was his line of the night.
That had to be the most entertaining part of it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, no, he's always fun. I sat next to him last year during the playoff game against Toller, and yeah, he's just so fun to listen
So
to.
what was his line of the night then?
Um,
Super Mario Hopwood.
Yeah, Super Mario. There was this other guy, Evans. He was calling him Workman, right? Because he was putting in the work.
Workman.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know, and like we were talking about this before the game started. Like I feel like Levi thinks that we're gaslighting him into thinking that Crawford is good, and Crawford is not as bad as they might seem just because they're 1 and 2 in district right now. Like, and they're not as good as they were last year, but they have their yeah, but really I think that this was Marlin's game to lose. And they did go into the half trailing by 2 points. And talking to Torres after the game, I think that was just really the thing that he was talking about was they need to be more disciplined in certain parts of the game. I didn't think the defense was that bad, but they did give up, I feel like, some dumb penalties and offsides penalties. I think there was a personal foul at one point. There was this weird pass interference call in the in the last offensive drive that Crawford scored in, because Cash Valgiano was like making the cut, and they were in the end zone, and he had 2 guys on him, but the ball dropped maybe like a foot in front of him. Like, he could have easily just made that extra step and caught the ball. But they called pass interference, and I think it was just that I couldn't see who it was that was tagging him up, but he was just a little bit too close, I guess. They got a sack, Marlin did, and then Crawford ended up getting the touchdown pass anyway to make it. And then they went for 2, so that's what made it 33-30. Okay. Yeah, but like Marlin could have easily gone into the half leading 21-7 if it weren't for penalties. And then there was a fumble at the goal line that Crawford recovered. Yeah, but that really, it was a game that you figured whoever had the ball last was going to win, and Marlin won the extra step, getting an interception in the fourth quarter, which turned into points. And so in the end they end up running the clock to get that 3-point win. I gotta give a shout out to Kier Young, because he was just playing tough all night. He took a hit in the first quarter where he made a reception and then went for the run, and he lost his helmet, and I guess like on the tackle he got hit, and so they took him off to like make sure he didn't have a concussion or anything like that. Went back in the game, and then a couple drives later was on defense and at the other end of the field, and he went down, and I didn't see what it was, but he came up like holding his wrist into his stomach, and they had to help him off the field. But by the second half, he was out there. He got a sack. He was making plays. So yeah, like if I had to pick a player of the game, it'd be that kid. But there was a ton of guys that just had great games, and I mean, like I said, Crawford, I think is not as bad as Levi thinks they are. They're just not,
Well, somebody told me,
chime in, Levi. Chime in. You're gonna throw him under the bus. I don't think he thinks Crawford's bad, right?
No, I don't think Crawford's bad. I think like so I saw Axel week 1, or it was like week 2 or whatever, but week 1 for me. And Axel had like 5 or 6 kids that are like really good skill position players. And I think the thing with Crawford was like Cash Balgiano was like the only guy who I thought was like a really good elite skill position player. And their defense wasn't as tough as I expected it to be. I think
give Crawford a year. Let's see what Crawford does in the playoffs. Give him until next year and see what they do. But don't look now, but Marlin Riesel is next Friday.
Yes, baby. I was gonna say that, and
yeah,
that looks like a district championship game right now.
Where is it?
It's in Riesel.
Riesel, nice. Okay,
that'll be fun.
That'll be a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, good win for Marlin. They do have a chance now maybe to play Riesel and see who can get that catbird seat in the top of that district. But let's go back to Levi because, all right, so on our other podcast, Super Centex podcast earlier this week, I called Mart the Sunday school answer because it's always right. You want to say who's the best pound for pound team in Central Texas? It's Mart. And Levi, I assume they proved that again tonight. 71 to Bagel.
Tell us about the murder.
The murder. Okay, so first and foremost, Mart is the first 2A school to feed me, so shout out to them.
Nice.
They treated me like a king.
You have been on that 2AB.
Yeah. And so I'm walking in, and the lady at the front is like, "Oh my God, I'm with the Waco Trib, blah blah blah." And she's like, "Well, I hope you have your article written by the end of the first quarter." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like
that is like a hard thing to say."
And I'm like, I don't care how confident you are. Like, do not say that.
That's a vintage Mart comment.
That is vintage.
And then I get what's crazy is like the first series, Mart gets the ball to start the game, and there was like 3 tackle like TFLs from Frost. And I was like, oh, that lady's gonna be like eating her words. And then on the second possession, they didn't do anything again, and they got bailed out because their kicker hit like a 40-yard field goal, which I've never seen before in high school or at that level.
Thomas is a good kicker.
Yeah, he is a good kicker.
Yeah, he is a good kicker. And then come to find out after the game, Coach Hoffman said that they kind of left some starters out those first couple drives because they were dealing with some discipline issues, but they weren't missing their quarterback or running back, so I didn't really notice. But and then from that point on, it was I guess a murder would be the best way to describe it. They scored on every single possession after that. They scored like 7 touchdowns in like 13 plays. Frost is really bad, but Mart's really good. And the thing about Mart that impressed me is, man, their defense is tough and they're super physical. They only have 15 to 20 kids, and like they're really, really good.
Here's what I think Mart does so well is, so Mart is playing without a Super Centex guy in Jonah Ross. He's not on the team anymore. And yet they more than any team around here, when they lose a really good player, they just keep on rolling. And the reason is because they don't have a lot of guys. So essentially they cross-train everybody into, Our quarterback's not on the team anymore. All right, DeMontrell Medlock, you're our quarterback now. You've already gotten some snaps added in practice. Go be the stud, and he's the stud. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, this is like
it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And this is like a random note, but like a lot of the time, like there's a lot of downtime. And so like sometimes I'll just be watching like the kids like play, like throw the football around like before and at halftime. And like this is like a really weird comment to make, but like Mart just has insane athletes that you can tell like they're gonna be really good when they get to high school. And so yeah, I don't think that they're gonna slow down anytime soon.
I'll one up your insane comment. Tonight was Mart. They're playing the Polar Bears, but they actually, once they realized what had happened, it was actually a sheep that they'd run over.
Oh, that's
they
lame.
thought was a polar bear.
That's lame. I got a better comment. Mart is known for 3 things: potholes, windmills. They've added windmills to Mart, and as Levi said, freakishly good athletes that are freakishly good athletes back in 5th grade. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to Michael because he got to see his first ever 6-man football game. How was it?
Brycey, it was great. I had a really good time. No, seriously, no, it was great. I had a really good time.
I love it.
I mean, obviously Abbott is a monster up there. It's funny because I told it the way I explained the game to Levi is kind of a joke, but as 2 guys that play video games, I described it to him as like, when you're, and I guess this could be applied to anything that you do competitively, when you're really good at something and you just kind of roll in and say I'm not going to say you're playing an inferior opponent because obviously the opposition was really good, but you're just kind of messing around and you're just kind of cruising through your routine, and then something, I don't know, like then then the opposition just kind of does something and kind of punches you in the mouth a little bit early, and then you're just like, all right, let me sit up, crack my knuckles, and get to work. That's what Abbott did because Aquila actually came out on defense and got a scoop and score right at the beginning, and it was like, whoa, like what's happening? This wasn't supposed to happen, and Abbott just kind of turned around and was like, all right, like let's get to business. That wasn't supposed to happen, and that's a really good team.
That's not the only place that happened tonight. Another game like you're describing, it looked like Alvarado was ahead of China Spring, and I picked Alvarado, and I'm going, okay, maybe I'm going to get that one. I look up later, and it's 57-20.
Yeah, it's like do not kid yourself.
So Brian Coates was with me. Brian Coates was with me at the Midway game. His daughter plays for Midway volleyball, and they were playing in Temple, and so he came up to the press box and helped spot for me and stuff. And when I saw that same thing, Chad, Alvarado was winning early. The next thing I looked, it was 50-20 at halftime, China Spring, and my comment was, "Don't make China Spring angry. You wouldn't like them when they're angry."
Seriously.
It was kind of the same way with Abbott because seriously, I mean, they just rolled, and
they must have had multiple defensive touchdowns.
No.
I mean, not Abbott, China Spring.
Maybe.
Oh, China Spring? Yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Probably.
Because that escalated so fast.
Yeah.
Okay, Anchorman.
I mean, but it was like, how many points was that? They would have had to score 4 touchdowns in a quarter, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. I blinked,
something like that,
and the score flipped. Back to Abbott.
Yeah.
What was the environment like? What was the environment?
Oh, it was great. No, a lot of people were there. The guys in the press box were saying that they think that's probably going to be the biggest attendance outside of homecoming. They think probably homecoming might have more, but I mean, the other school traveled well. It was a great environment, cool scene right there. We had a great sunset. I took a nice picture, and I believe you pronounce it Shustala. Is that Riley Shustala?
Okay, I always thought it was just Sostala, but
the PA guy was saying Shustala. I think.
That's probably right. It's probably an Abbott pronunciation. One of those.
Anyway,
the Eastern European sector of Central Texas. So it could be anything.
Anyway, reigning six-man Centex Player of the Year is pretty good. I'm just going to tell you that right now. He went off, and it's also going to hurt Aquila when its playmaker is not playing. They were without Hagen Williams. Yeah, they were without him, and apparently he had some sort of nerve injury like last week, and apparently this Monday he like was pretty much like immobile, like couldn't move much. So kind of scary scene for for the coach's son. You don't want to see that for them.
Right.
And they barely and apparently some of the guys in the press box had told me they were down like 24-6 at what was it, Bynum last week? Like in the first quarter, they were down, and he wasn't playing in that first quarter. Well, he ended up going in, and they ended up like sneaking out of there with a win. I don't know when he got hurt in that game, but apparently it was sometime during that contest.
Yeah, and obviously it's the case in 2A and 3A, but certainly in 6-man, when you lose your best guy that does just a little bit of everything, that's pretty painful for your team.
It was sad.
Can John Werner hear us now?
I believe John Werner can hear us.
I finally made it.
We got here's
Let's
Johnny.
go talk to Johnny Werner, the
I had to
man.
say that.
I've been out
It
in
wouldn't
the
be late
wilderness
night
for
without saying, "Here's Johnny."
I've been out in the
Nice.
wilderness for 6 weeks. I had no technology. Plus, I had no technology skills before. They're even worse now.
Hey, John, I wanted you to hold up paper like Love Actually or something, and just like give us like
Breakdown
paper
of the
description
game
of
via,
your
like
game.
cue cards.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, that was one fantastic finish.
yeah.
Gatesville,
Gave him a scare, didn't they?
they did. They scored with 38 seconds left. They threw a touchdown pass, and then they used a tackle eligible play for the 2-point conversion. It looked like they're going to win. They were up 29-28, and they Connally hit a couple passes, get to their own 48, and then they just threw the short pass to Kiefer Sibley, and he just made it happen. He like sidestepped a bunch of guys. He got down the left sideline. He got a really good block from Kobe Black, and that was it.
Wow.
You're never out of a game when you have Kiefer Sibley. You're
No,
never
that's
out of a
right.
game.
Kiefer Sibley is a cheat code.
He's a great player. I mean, he not only has great moves, he's really strong. I mean, he ran over a bunch of guys tonight, and he's got a pretty tough stiff arm too. He's a great player. He's really fun to watch. I mean, what a game to cover after I hadn't written anything in 3 months.
3 months, Johnny. Wow.
3 months.
That's
It really tested me.
Don't
And
call
now
it a
you got-
comeback.
Yeah.
Don't call it a comeback.
Did you have a brain freeze, or were you like, "Oh yeah, I remember how to do this"?
No, actually, I think the toughest thing, and it happens every season with the high school season opener, just getting
You
used to
forgot
the
your
tempo.
binoculars? No, I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
had those.
Okay.
I had everything ready. I had my computer set up. But really, the first game, you got to get used to that tempo, plus keeping the play-by-play, stats, tweeting. I mean, that first game is always a little tough for me just to get up to speed. But I'd say by third quarter, I was doing okay.
Jenny Dial Creech, who used to write for the Houston Chronicle, once said, if you can cover Texas high school football, you can cover anything. So
I believe
Levi, DJ, Michael, there's some words for you right there, baby.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was talking about 2A specifically.
Right. 6-man, actually. 6-man.
Yeah, it's 6-man.
We'll get back to John in a second. I'm going to turn it over to Chad. And so Chad, I'm going to set this up by just saying the other guy I was sitting with for a while at the Midway game was Gil Beckham, who Corey Beckham's brother, coached at Connally, coached at China Spring before. He's now at Midway, not coaching. He's at River Valley, doing like PE and stuff like that. Anyway, Gil has had his own health scares before, and has gotten through them. And we were up there talking about Mike Shields at one point, and hope I don't get emotional. Mike's one of those guys that everybody likes, you know. I mean, I assume it was an emotional scene out there.
It really wasn't. You know, it's a district game, and so that's somewhat of the focus. And when I got out there, I realized, you know, McGregor players, this is the third game they've had to do this because Coach Shields first got sick, I think, the week before the Franklin game. So he was out the Franklin game and then the Cameron game, I guess, and then or the Troy game. They played Troy last week, I think. Anyway, whatever the order was, this was the third game, and so it wasn't necessarily business as usual. There was a lot of pink out there. The cheerleaders had pink pom-poms and all of that. And I don't know if that was, that's probably kind of an October thing as much as anything too. But like I saw Tim Stewart on the sideline and we talked a little bit about the situation. And he made the point, and everybody's made the point of how well Mike Shields is liked at everywhere he's been. Hillsboro, Red Oak, Italy, Terrell, now back in Central Texas at McGregor. He's a Riker alum. Riker's his alma mater. His dad, Gene, was the head pro at Ridgewood for a long time, the Baylor golf coach, and then the Midway golf coach. So his wife sent me a text this week saying, you know, if you could please say that it's the beginning of his battle with multiple myeloma. And so it's going to be a tough battle, but he's going to have a ton of support, and that's kind of cool to think about from the entire Central Texas community, kind of pulling for one person in that way. But you know, other than that, you know, I got a good photo of the decal that they're wearing on the helmets. It's MS in a shield, right? So you had some graphic design cleverness there.
Yeah, Mike Shields is very nice.
Yeah. But, you know, as far as the action on the field went, it was kind of what you'd expect. Lorena's playmakers made plays, including a guy I haven't seen before tonight, Blaze Smitshammer.
Okay.
Blaze
Lorena's had a run of Smeds hammers.
Well, and I had to go over and get confirmation because Blaze is the adoptive brother of Ben.
Okay.
I don't want to get into it, but you first go, wait a minute, that's Ben Smetshammer's brother? How does but he had a great night, ran for 3 touchdowns, 158 yards, I think, on 15 carries, so 10 yards a carry. That's probably a story for us to do feature wise is Blaze Smetshammer and the Smetshammer family, because they've been big players in our area for a while. In fact, I was telling a TV reporter on the sideline, when I started to type in Smetshammer on my tweet, it automatically recognized the name because of how many times I had tweeted Ben Smetshammer's name.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. We've had a podcast with both a Smetshammer and a Shushtala on this podcast.
Yeah.
If I said that right. All right, I'm going to my own game now because we got to talk about Midway Temple.
Yes,
which was freaking insane. Let me tell you. If you were late to the game, you would have missed some scores because it was 24-0 Midway by the end of the first quarter. 9 seconds it took Midway. They scored on the first play of the game. They also scored on offense, defense, and special teams. They had a 75-yard pass on their first play of the game, Ty Brown to Ramon Conway. They had an 85-yard interception return. They had a punt block that was just insane. They just dominated Temple in the first half. They just broke through the line. They'd already blocked one punt before, and Donovan Jones of Midway just blocked it. It was down by the end zone, and he just sort of just picked it up, and he was in the end zone, touchdown, boom. I mean, it was as complete a performance as you could imagine on a week where Midway had a lot of distractions, and stunning, really, because I mean, DJ, Chad, and I sat here and talked about it earlier in the week. We all went with Temple.
And two of us flipped. You and I flipped to Temple. right?
What? Yes, you and I flipped to Temple. DJ already had Temple. She saw Midway last week. Wasn't impressed with their line play. I'm telling you, they came to play. And this is not a good Temple team. So take it for what it's worth. But at the same time, Midway's going to come home next week and have homecoming against a not very good Copper's Cove team and have a
hey
and have a chance to get to 3-1 in district. And that's a little mind blowing. So yeah, give it up for the Panthers. It was a complete performance. And after the game, I talked to Ty Brown, and of course he's been a huge difference maker, to say the least, for Midway. But they've got this wrestling belt. You know how a lot of teams will do these kind of things, and so I was like, do you want to do because I was doing a video, and I said, you want to do the interview with the wrestling belt, and he was like, no, and he put it down. He said it's actually kind of bad luck. So I got to find out the story with the wrestling belt. But
we're diving in on Midway's story. We got several angles to cover at Midway this year.
Yeah, big win for the Panthers. And like I said, they'll be coming home next week, homecoming against Copper's Cove. So yeah, in a week where they had a lot of distractions, they did not let it bother them. And so, kudos to you, Midway.
Question.
Yes.
Because you mentioned they had the block and then they went and scored a touchdown. Crawford had a block of an extra point and then went to the other side of the field to score, but only got 2 points. So is that a safety?
No.
Yeah. Well, it's a conversion, right?
It's a conversion, so it counts as 2. Yeah. And Midway,
I saw that in my game.
Midway almost had
an extra point. Lorena blocked an extra point, and the kid, I can't remember the numbers, but the kid was returning it, and it looked like he was going to get all the way down, and the McGregor kid chased him down and tackled him inside the 10, and then he fumbled, and another Lorena player recovered the fumble, but the referee said it was down. I don't think it was actually down. I just don't think the referees wanted to sort that out.
Wow.
Because, like, if somebody fumbles forward, then you can recover that fumble, right? So it probably should have been Lorena doing the same thing, getting a 2-point conversion there. Yeah. Unless you fumble on purpose forward, then it's an illegal forward pass.
I don't know.
Anyway, I don't know. They called it down. They were wise to do that.
Anyway, some good games, some wild games, some craziness.
We hadn't even talked about Chilton Bremond.
Did
I kind of wish I would have been at that game. Chilton beat Bremond by a point.
Oh wow! I saw Bremond was winning earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and also Chad, and I guess we'll break down some of these later in our other podcasts, but Italy kicked the crap out of Itasca.
I know. I'm gonna have to move on, maybe. I mean, there's still hope for the Wampus Cats, and they're still making progress. But
Chad still, his man crush on the Wampus Cats is fading.
Well, as long as they're my only darling team to lose this weekend, I'll be fine.
Which brings me to my last little point. We will have a John Werner sighting also tomorrow at the Baylor Texas Tech game. Should be a lot of fun with our new Zach at the game.
Oh yeah,
John. Let me know if you.
It's John, the new boss. The same as
Michael
the old boss.
Michael wants to tell you something, John.
Hey, John. Right, if you need any directions or instructions on how to get there, let me know. I'm happy to help you.
Yeah, I'll get with you tomorrow on that.
Okay, sounds good. We'll see you then.
All right, guys. Thanks for all your help. Appreciate it.
The extended edition.
I'll try to get in on time next time.
Yep. All right.
Hey, it wouldn't be a thing if you didn't kind of struggle to get your computer going, right?
Right.